Hello and welcome to a very special edition of the All Elite Arcade podcast. Every Monday we talk video games, but this Monday specifically we talk about all the very best video games of 2025 because it is my favorite time of the year. It's Game of the Year season, Chugs. I don't know about you. I had an 8-hour flight this week. And I spent all 8 hours writing down this list, not only for here, but a secret location that will be published at a later time. But I'm very excited to talk about my 10 favorite games of 2025.
Dude, I am so excited. We've said 8 million times how incredible 2025 was. Even today, Uno, I originally was going to be at Chugs Army headquarters. There's been crazy wind going on, so instead I'm at a different location to film this episode because there's no way I was going to miss it. But my God, in regards to the list itself, this easily was one of the most fun, but certainly the most difficult lists I've had to make, just because there were so many games that were so good, so many games that I loved so much. It took me over a week to actually compile this list easily.
Yeah, on my end, I had to cut down from a list of 22 games down to 10. I'll probably give a little shout out to some of the games I cut down closer to number one, so a little teaser for you. There will be a little section for honorable mentions. But I do have 10 that I do want to talk about. But before we talk about that, just so you know, while this is a special episode where we will talk about 2025 games, I have a few warnings. There is a very good chance we speak a little bit of spoilers about certain things that happen in certain games. I feel like, especially when we get to our top 5 games, there are going to be some games where I need to discuss emotional moments or some of the late game content. We're not going to try to outright spoil a video game. Do not worry. We're not giving you the very ending of a video game or anything of the sort. But I would like to freely discuss a few of our games today. So that's a little heads up. And then a second heads up is we will still get the producer's quiz and we will still read your questions from the arcade mailbag at the very end of this. So do not fret. That will still be a part of our podcast. Now, Chugs, I'm going to give you the floor. I think it's finally time for us to do our top 10 games from 2025. And I would like to hear what your number 10 is for 2025.
Okay, absolutely. Once again, not to sound like a broken record, but again, based off of what you said as well, Uno, I originally started with 18 games. So to get it narrowed down to only 10 was incredibly difficult. But again, going through this entire list was so much fun because every single one of these games on this list were an absolute blast to play and incredibly important to me in some way or another. And like you said, too, I could go on and on about some honorable mentions of games that I really enjoyed. We played so many incredible titles this year. But to get it narrowed down, starting with number 10. Number 10 for me, Uno, was South of Midnight. That is my number 10. Again, I had initially seen footage of this game when they had done a developer direct. I believe in the exact same developer direct, they showed Ninja Gaiden 4 and, of course, Expedition 33. But they also showed a little bit more on South of Midnight. Immediately, I was intrigued strictly based on the art style. I'm a huge art style guy, and I thought, man, this looks really, really cool. And then as you go through and play this game, South of Midnight is a 3D action platformer that is set in New Orleans, which is really, really cool. And in addition to the art style being really incredible, the combat is super, super fun. It's nothing out of this world, but it's really fun and really enjoyable to play through. The areas themselves are such a joy to explore. But the two big things for me, and these two things are very, very important to me, as you'll see in my list for 2025, and really my taste in gaming in general, is number one, dude, what a soundtrack. So good. South of Midnight has such incredible music the whole way through. Very minor story spoilers here. Again, I won't go into any detail in regards to South of Midnight because I highly recommend everyone plays it. But there are some moments where you're reaching the climax of a certain level or a certain stage. And lots of times you'll be climbing something very, very large. And the music just escalates along with you as you're climbing and exploring. And music is such a powerful storytelling element within video games. As South of Midnight absolutely nails it in this one. And that's the other thing I wanted to mention, of course, is story. South of Midnight has an incredibly heartwarming and sometimes heart-wrenching story that just takes you along on this incredible roller coaster ride. And it's a story I'll never forget. Absolutely. So again, if you're into 3D action platformers games and you have not checked out South of Midnight and you like story and you like good music, I can pretty much guarantee that you're going to love South of Midnight. So Uno, that's what I'm starting out with. Number 10 is South of Midnight for me.
Now, a great pick because I played, I think, a total of 4 hours of that game. Did not get to complete it, but man, I was so enthralled with what I was playing while I was on it. If you're wondering about that game, that's like the major reason I think this year to get Xbox Game Pass was this and Silksong. Yes. Both these games dropping was a lot. I mean, I think that's the only games I went and played on Game Pass this year. Silksong I ended up buying on every single console, but so I think I own it a total of 3 times now. But yeah, Silksong's incredible. Or sorry, not Silksong. South of Midnight is incredible. The music's incredible. I thought some of the boss fights were really interesting. In the 5 hours, it kept like advancing into further and further uses for your powers, further and further complicated patterns for the fighting, and I really enjoyed what I got to play.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Well, on my side of things, my number 10 game of the year is The Root Trees Are Dead. The Root Trees Are Dead is a game I played back in January of 2025, very early on. I remember I had just played the Prince of Persia game that you'd suggested just post-Christmas time on my week off from work. And The Root Trees Are Dead ended up dropping mysteriously. I hadn't heard anything about it, but it said it was a detective game. And if you know anything about Evil Uno, you know he loves a puzzle detective game. And this is
puzzle master.
He is a puzzle master. He is so excited for more and more puzzles, and this is one that made me very excited because it does a lot of the things that I personally love in video games, and that is deductive puzzles where they give you very slight bits of information and you have to kind of piece it together. It's not like a 1+1. You have to follow patterns. You have to figure out yourself how to resolve things. And another thing that it does incredible is that it is situated in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so the interface for playing the video game is like an old computer interface, which to me, I don't know why. I have a real big pattern in the video games that I like. But if you like play into early 2000s internet, and making me feel like I'm running an old computer, I absolutely love it. So The Root Trees Are Dead is a deductive puzzle where you are investigating. Essentially, there is a crash that happens, and some of the family members of the Root Trees family pass away. You are then contacted to create and inform the rest of the family of a proper family tree. And you then have to investigate the internet, police reports, read through magazines and books to figure out who is a root tree, who is not a root tree, and kind of piece together the family tree piece by piece. At first, it starts like a mystery novel, and you're assuming you're going to be finding a murderer, but eventually it becomes kind of a family drama thing where you're looking for upwards of 60 different family members. What are their relations? Who is actually whose father? Who is actually whose mother? What is their role? What is their job? What is their age? And then also finding their photos. It becomes like you essentially are scouring the internet and you're scouring a bunch of databases to find the information. And I've always loved that in a video game. By far, I think this is one of the games that few people will talk about it because it came out so early in the year and also is a very, very niche audience for a video game. But I absolutely love The Root Trees Are Dead, and I hope people who hear this who are interested also play it as well, because it is my number 10 of 2025.
Yeah, I got to check that one out, Uno. There's so many like detective or puzzle games that I haven't really dipped my toe into yet. And every time you talk about them, I'm like, man, I feel like I'd really like these. So great number 10. For me, we're going to keep going. I'm going to jump into my number 9 this year. And my number 9 for this year, for 2025, is Borderlands 4. So anyone who knows me knows how much of a big fan I am of the Borderlands franchise. Handsome Jack is my favorite video game villain who has ever existed. Borderlands 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. Once again, Borderlands, the franchise being a looter shooter, it has a very interesting and fascinating cell shading design, which is really cool. There's oftentimes lots of comedy in these games as well. But what was so interesting about Borderlands 4 is this was like a truly proper open world Borderlands experience. And I think in many ways, Borderlands really does shine in that open world experience. The fact that you can go anywhere that you want on the map is so much fun, especially considering, once again, because this is a Borderlands game, there are millions upon millions of guns or grenades or armor pieces that you can get. So the looter shooter aspect is so addicting to me. But the reason, one of the biggest reasons it made it on my list this year at number 9 was, generally speaking, I am a single player gamer. I like to enjoy a video game story generally by myself or on stream with other people, but I love single player games for sure. This Borderlands was the very first Borderlands game that I played with 3 other people. I got the chance to play with my brother and 2 other cousins. And so many people who have played Borderlands say that the best way to experience those games is in co-op. And I just had not done that before. So getting to play this game in co-op with my cousins and with my brother was so much fun. Being out in the open world and deciding like, okay, we're going to go to this point, but all of a sudden my brother gets distracted by this bandit camp and we have to turn around in our vehicles and go and rescue him. Or we randomly find this boss that's out there and we kill this boss. Then we end up getting some legendary loot. Like, that part is so much fun. So again, I've said before, the only thing better than being passionate about something is sharing that passion with other people. And the 3 people I played with just absolutely adore Borderlands. So to get to enjoy it together was such a joy. Again, I love the movement in Borderlands 4. I think the comedy is going in the right direction. Of course, all the different gun customization options are bigger than they have ever been. Borderlands 4 is a blast to play. And I think it's been my favorite one since Borderlands 2, actually. So that's my number 9.
Oh, you sold me, because I've been meaning to come back and play Borderlands, and I never got to play Borderlands 4 with a co-op team yet. So I think I will jump back into that.
You should. It's fun. I definitely have some more Borderlands 4 to go as well. Maybe at some point me and you could play.
Oh, please. Yeah, actually, that would help a whole lot than trying to find my own little, instead of find my own little crew.
Right.
Number 9 on my end for Game of the Year is Seance of Blake Manor. We're following the train here. I talked about a detective game at number 10. Number 9 is another detective game. Of course, Evil Uno loves his detective games. I talked about this game a little bit because I got to play this at Gamescom in Germany back in, I believe, August when I was out there, and I played a demo, and instantly I talked about how excited I was for it to eventually come out. Well, it came out this October, and what it is it's a detective game situated in a manor. You are in, I believe, early 19th century Ireland. You are a detective once again, and you've been contacted to try and figure out what happens to Evelyn Dean, who has disappeared only a few days after checking into a hotel. So you report to this hotel, and the art style for this video game, first of all, you're in first-person view. Everything is cel-shaded in a kind of Mike Mignola, Hellboy-style art style, so it has a beautiful look to it. And it also has comic book strip cutscenes, very similar to Hellboy as well, so it gives like a very nice ambiance. But you come to this matter, you're here to investigate the disappearance, and what you need to do that is to follow around characters on the map, question them, find clues within the entirety of the maze that is this manor, and try to then take those clues, confront them to certain characters, and unlock new possibilities, new deductions, new theories to eventually resolve the ending being who and where is Evelyn Dean and who is involved in her disappearance. It's a very narrative-driven game, and so nothing this game does is truly that unique. But what I thought was so fascinating about it was that while it is an investigative game, it gives you the appearance of urgency because it has a timer-based function. So any action you do, so if I were to walk into a room and look at an underside of a lamp, it would take 1 game minute. If I read a paper, it would take 1 game minute. If I had an interaction with a person, every time I would question them on a certain person or a character that we've interacted, or a concept, or a clue that we found, that's 1 more game minute. And it gives you the sense of urgency that you could potentially not solve this in time, and makes you kind of pinpoint and choose exactly what mysteries within the matter you should tackle first. I loved it. It's a game that I played. It is such a short amount of time. It came out, and within 2 days, I completely completed the entire game. I played all 30 hours in a span of 48 hours. It's got some eccentric characters. It has a lot of magic-based professions, such as there's a voodoo master, there's a magician, there's pagans within there. There are doctors of science that are all there for a seance. The seance is going to be the first seance where they get to speak with a ghost, but not through a medium, but with the ghost appearing itself. And so it invites all this slew of eccentric characters that you get to question and interact with, and eventually resolve everyone's individual problems to also find out what is going on at Blake Manor. I love a detective game. This was one of the very best ones I've played this year, and that's why it's made my list.
Yeah, that one sounds really good too. Really, really good. You get me fired up, Uno. I want to try some of these games. That's awesome.
Hey, that's the hope for everyone.
Yeah, right. Man, so for me, number 8 for my 2025 top 10 games of the year, number 8 for me was Elden Ring Nightreign. So again, for anyone who knows me, they know once again how much I love From Software and Soulsborne titles. I have played and beaten all the From Software Soulsborne titles, with the exception of Elden Ring Nightreign, which is on my list. But Elden Ring Nightreign is such a different approach from what FromSoft and Miyazaki normally do. This is actually a roguelike Souls game, which is very, very cool, especially because I have very little experience with roguelikes. I've played a few games like Hades 2 and things like that, but as far as like really diving into a roguelike game, this seriously is the first one where I've really done that. So Elden Ring Nightreign, again, so much fun, being thrown into a map where the circle is slowly closing in until you get to the end of day 1, where you have to fight a boss. If you defeat that boss, the circle goes away and you can go out and explore the map once again. At this point with the DLC, there are multiple maps. They recently added even more seeds, so there's more and more combinations of bosses and enemies that you can find within these different maps that you go on. And I love, too, the process of trying to decide, okay, do I want to run for this church to maybe get an extra flask, or do I want to run into this ruin to maybe get some smithing stones, or maybe I want to go to a castle and defeat a boss and get a really, really good amount of runes, and then also get the hopes of getting an epic or a legendary weapon drop. That part of it is really fun. It's also very stressful. It moves incredibly fast, even though by the end of a mission that you've done, it takes about 45 minutes to complete. But still, because it's Elden Ring, it feels so intense. It feels like it's happening so fast. I've had such a good time playing this game by myself. But recently, I've been deciding to play with random people online, which again, I normally don't do that a ton. Sometimes I'll play Halo online, but generally speaking, like I said, I like to play single player games. And dude, the experience of getting to play Elden Ring with 2 people you don't know, none of us have microphones, none of us are communicating verbally, but like being able to talk to each other as these boss fights and as these encounters are happening is such an incredible feeling. Just recently, last week, I decided to play with 2 other people, and we were towards the end of day 2, and the final boss in day 2 was Margit, and it was an intense fight. Margit was real strong. Me and someone else got knocked down, and Margit only had like a little sliver of health left, and our partner came over and started hitting us, which actually revives us, but Margit got too close, so he had to go away and just hope for the best. he took down Margit, and when we all got up, we're spamming the block button, jumping up and down, just so elated and so excited that we were able to make it to day 3. It's such a joy to play with other people. It's also a joy to play by yourself as well. To me, it's still, even though they've changed it where the enemies don't have as much health, to me, it's still so difficult to play this game by yourself. I think for sure some enemies or bosses or encounters are meant to be 3 people, which that is what the game entails. But again, there's a million different combinations. I love all the different classes. If you want to do like a strength tank build, you could do that. If you want to do a magic build, if you want to do a fast dexterity build, you can do that. If you want to parry, there's the executor, which you can do in Elden Ring Nightreign, which is so cool. This, in a lot of ways, to me, feels like a celebration of everything FromSoft and everything Soulsborne. Because again, you're finding bosses from Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. You're finding armor sets from all the games as well, like Bloodborne references, of course, Sekiro references. And I love that. I love that there's a game that exists where in the same day you can fight Artorias, and then the next day fight the Nameless King. That is just so cool to me. So, yep, my number 8 for this year is Elden Ring Nightreign, and I can promise you I'm going to be playing it into 2026 and beyond.
They've already also said that they'll be dropping so much more DLC for this too. So this game is going to be supported probably for at least 2 more years. I am ashamed to say this. I've yet to play Elden Ring Nightreign. I really should. You know,
yes, you would love it. You would. Again, it's challenging, but my God, it's fun. Especially once again, if you got to play with friends, or if me and you got to play. Oh, it's a blast. Such a blast.
I'm hoping January is a slow month so I could catch up on a few of these for sure.
Yes.
My number 8 for a game of 2025 is a game that I put in almost 100 hours, and that is Megabonk on the Steam Deck and also through my PC, but also Steam as well. Megabonk, I hate to be so reductive in a description for a video game, but Megabonk is Vampire Survivors meets Risk of Rain. It's a 3D auto shooter game with roguelike features, a rocking soundtrack, an incredible amount of music in there, a bunch of incredible like electric guitar tunes. Sometimes the music seems unfitting for what you're doing. Some other times it feels like the wildest music you've ever heard while you're just actively running around. But it's a game that scratches all of the itches that the Vampire Survivor has, Risk of Rain has, a lot of the roguelike auto shooters that have been prevalent in the last few years. This is one of the very best. It is my favorite that I have played this year of those type of games, including the updates to Vampire Survivors. I've enjoyed more Megabonk this year than I have Vampire Survivors DLCs. It plays super smoothly on practically everything I've mentioned. Steam Deck. I believe it's about to come out on consoles as well. And plus, there's new content that just dropped. New content to be dropped in the next year. So it's a game that's really going to be growing. It's a very small indie studio, and it's been a pretty big hit for them, so I'm hoping that it will continue to be supported. But if anyone is interested for another one of those auto shooters in 3D, Megabonk is amongst the very best to be out there, and that is why it is my number 8 of 2025.
Speaking of games that I really wish I would have played, Megabonk is towards the top of that list. Again, I've seen a ton of footage of it. I've watched my brother play it before. I've listened to you talk about it. Mm-hmm. It seems like so much fun. You did the same thing with me with Vampire Survivors. I don't know if I ever would have tried it if it wasn't for you, and I did, and I'm like, oh, I get it. This is incredible.
Yeah, it's the type of game that within seconds, instantly what it is. There's not a bunch of cutscenes. You don't have to have 15 minutes of diatribes and dialogue to get into it. Within a minute, you know exactly what you got to do. It auto shoots in a direction. You need to go and get, your chests, your items, build your run. There's a timer that goes down. I love those type of games because I love a game that I can come in and play for 15, 20 minutes and leave and feel like I've done something. I've at least attempted a proper run, or even have completed a proper run within that time. And that's why I like these type of roguelike games, Megabonk being one of the very best to come out in quite some time.
Yeah, nice. So my number 7 is an adrenaline-fueled title. My number 7 from 2025 is Doom: The Dark Ages, the newest Doom title this year that dropped. Again, Doom 2016, Doom Eternal, just 2 absolutely incredible Doom titles. I think since like the revamp or the re-release in a lot of ways of this modern Doom, it's been so awesome. And one of the things that impresses me so much is how different all 3 games feel. Again, Doom Eternal in a lot of ways was just so fast, like even faster than Doom 2016. Just go, go, go. But Doom: The Dark Ages is definitely a slower paced game, and I love it. So Doom: The Dark Ages being a prequel before Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. But this time they've added a bunch of new fun tools at your disposal. First of all, they added a parry system, which is incredibly rewarding. So rewarding. Also, this shield throw where you can throw your shield like Captain America super far away to take out enemies. You can do a shield bash where you go flying across the map to take out an enemy. It's so much fun. And Doom: The Dark Ages was so much fun. I loved the level variety in this game. Sometimes you'll be flying on dragons. Sometimes you'll be on miniguns. Sometimes you'll be platforming through areas. Sometimes you'll be trying to solve puzzles. I really do feel like Doom: The Dark Ages has it all. And I know some people were a little bit worried about the pacing of the games and things like that. But I remember the developers had said Doom: The Dark Ages in a lot of ways feels like you are like this immovable tank. And that's exactly how it feels. And let me say, too, is even though it's a little bit slower, trust me, it is not a slow game. There are still so many enemies after you at all times. You still have to react very, very quickly, whether that's parrying or shield bashing or anything like that. I was really, really excited for this game, and it did not disappoint me at all. It was an absolute blast. So once again, number 7, the adrenaline-fueled Doom: The Dark Ages for me.
I love Doom: The Dark Age. I love especially the weight of your character in that.
Yes.
They speak about how it's much slower, and I feel like you hear slow and you assume for Doom it's a bad thing. But in this situation, your character feels like such a large tank, such a strong individual that the weight of it feels incredible. When you smash in with a shield on it, you feel the strength and the resonance of that hit. When you're using, your ball and chain, it feels the exact same way. All of the weapons have an incredible sound to it. All these animations for the weapons and the reloading of the weapons as well. I'm actually miffed at myself now because I kind of forgot about Doom: The Dark Ages when making my list. And didn't even, I don't know if it would have made my top 10 personally, but even then I was like, oh my God, I remember loving this so much. I should revisit it, especially because I believe there is like supplementary content in it as well. What a great game. The Doom series has been incredible. The last 3 Dooms have reinvented and like brought the series to like a whole new platform.
Yeah, they are just so good, and I love the little decisions too of like, okay, if you melee a character, you get your armor back, or if you chainsaw a character, you get ammo back. Like making those decisions too, while just all this absolute chaos is happening around you. But you're right, Uno. I feel like they have just absolutely nailed this revival of Doom, and I can't wait to see what else they do in the future. And also, you mentioning about almost forgetting to put it on your list, man, that's 2025 in a nutshell. This was the hardest list to come up with because so much stuff was so good. I almost thought it's like, let's do a top 20. It was such a crazy year.
I considered it because there's so many titles I had to cut out that I feel like I wish I could talk about. And that's what we'll mention in honorable mentions later. When you hear the name, please go search it out if you're looking for new games to play. But it's been such a great year that even as of yet, both of us have yet to name a title that both of us is on the list. I'm very excited because we have so much more to talk about, including my number 7 of 2025, a game I did not think I would love, Death Stranding 2, sequel to Kojima's Death Stranding 1, which I have historically talked about as a game I think sucks. I thought Death Stranding, the first game, was a game that I did not get. I did not understand. I believe Kojima is an incredible developer, but I have gone out, when we were talking about bad takes and we were talking about takes that was going to lead to people hating us, I did mention how I thought Kojima was a little overrated, and I referenced Death Stranding as a point of contention when talking about Kojima. This game, I don't know how to explain it because everything I hated about the first game is in this game. There's slow walking. There's the same type of blossoming soundtrack that pops up. There's I don't know how else to say it, but it feels exactly like the first game. It's got the weird cutscenes. It's got the weird characters. It's got complete nonsense. But somehow in this game, it felt like a much tighter package. It felt like they understood that they had built a stupid, weird world, and we might as well just do it tongue-in-cheek and let people play around with it. So, for example, in the first game, you have an extremely, they take everything within the game as an extremely very serious subject. In this game, they know you're traversing with a baby around you, you're delivering packages around, that they start making fun of the process too. You're delivering pizzas at one point. You learn kung fu tactics to better deliver and better fight individuals. You meet a kung fu guy in the mountains, and if you deliver a special pizza to him, you get special attacks. You get to wear weird clothing. The characters that I thought was so stupid in the first game, like Dead Man and Not So Dead Man and Die Hard Man, I thought, like, what incredibly stupid characters. Well, in this game, they don't make it any different. They're still around, but for some reason, it's more endearing. It's more tongue-in-cheek. It's more... you're a part of the process rather than you feel like you're watching someone's odd, play happening. And then the game is absolutely gorgeous. It might be one of the best looking games of 2025, if not the best looking game. Cutscenes, in action as well. There's a level that they decide suddenly that they're going to showcase all their particle physics. You're suddenly in a factory with all kinds of ambers and all kinds of metal splashes going around, and they fill the entire screen with it just to show that, hey, yes, this game is about walking from point A to point B and making roads. But graphically, this game can do anything. And I think it's hard to describe what I love about this game because a lot of what I did in it is quite literally go around, grab pieces of pavement, grab chemicals, grab resources, go back to my hub, build a little bit of a road, and then do that as a cycle on and on and on. But the soundtrack is so incredible. It has some great moving music in there. The fact that you can, decide to make your playlist in this game, unlike the first one, makes it all of the traversal way more manageable. There's way more tools to play with. It feels more like Metal Gear Solid 5 when you finally have, when you finally have access to everything. Early on, you have your gun, you have only a few things, but as you develop your arsenal, you can start tackling missions in all kinds of weird different ways. Traversal feels like that in this game. Suddenly, you could slingshot yourself across. You could hovercraft. You could use a snowboard to go down a mountain. You can use what they call a coffin to teleport yourself from one end to another. There's all kinds of different methods on how you traverse it. It makes things way more fun when playing. And then it ultimately all ends up at the craziest ending in a video game ever, where two people, and I will spoil the end of this game, but Norman Reedus will play against Troy Baker, and both of you just shred electric guitars while fighting each other. It's just a big solo. There's a big musical number. In any other game, it would make no sense, but in a Kojima game, somehow it feels like something that fits. I did not want to love this game, but in the end, I cannot deny how much time I spent on it and how much I enjoyed Death Stranding 2.
Oh man. So I have been meaning to play the Death Stranding games for so long. Again, I am like a huge Kojima fan. But I think it's incredible, and it says a lot about Death Stranding 2 for you to not be a big fan of the first one at all, and for the second one to be in your top 10. Like that's incredible.
Yeah,
I gotta try it.
It's a huge leap. It's a huge, especially for me. I think like the first game, it takes maybe 20 hours before you start getting vehicles and you start, the laborious walking from one point to another becomes more fun. The loop itself becomes fun 20 to 25 hours into the first game. In this one, within the first hour, you're in that loop, you understand it, and then you build upon that loop even more so afterwards, that it becomes even more fun and even more fun. I enjoyed it so much. I even there are times I kind of want to go back and keep building more roads, but I've unlocked just about everything I needed in that game. But I would still, if they make Death Stranding 3, maybe Evil Uno plays that one too.
Yeah. No, I gotta play it. Great choice. Now I want to go play Death Stranding 2 so bad. But we're gonna jump into my number 6 of 2025 for this past year. And my number 6 is Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. So again, this year, as far as ninja titles being released, what a 2025, because there's a couple of games I do want to do some honorable mentions for. One being Shinobi Art of Vengeance. That game, absolutely. If this would have been a top 15, that game would have been on there. It was just Shinobi Art of Vengeance was so cool. Also, Ninja Gaiden 4, the new 3D Ninja Gaiden game. Absolutely incredible as well. Just an amazing 3D Ninja Gaiden game that's super challenging. The worlds are really, really cool. Both those games are awesome. But my personal favorite from this year was Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. So Ninja Gaiden Ragebound is a retro 2D action platformer style title. Again, it's a Ninja Gaiden game through and through. The scenario being that you're actually playing as 2 different characters, which is really cool. One from the Hayabusa clan, one from the Ravenclaw clan, which again, those 2 clans, they don't get along at all, but they have to work together to fight against these demons that are invading their world. The action in this game is so fast twitch and so reactionary based. It's an absolute blast. There's constantly, so many different enemies coming at you at all times. You end up, as you continue playing the game, have so many different tools at your disposal. Whether it's throwing knives or doing magic, they really give you a bunch of tools to do this. All the different environments are very different as well. You'll be in construction sites and down in caves and in forests, and all the areas look so cool. The boss fights are a lot of fun as well. They really, really do a great job of having the boss fights be a wide variety of sometimes giant enemies, sometimes enemies who are more your size. But man, this was such a fun game. The music also absolutely incredible, has an amazing soundtrack. Also, the story ended up being like a lot of fun. It was a really, really cool and engaging story. This game by a mile is the shortest game on my top 10 list. I believe Ninja Gaiden Ragebound took me about 6 hours to complete. And I play very slow as well, trying to get the collectibles and stuff. But just because it's shorter does not mean at all that it's not worth your time. This game is just packed with so much good stuff and so much quality content that it absolutely, to me, deserves to be on my top 10 list. So for me, number 6, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, an incredible title. If you like Ninja Gaiden, if you like retro action platformers, if you like difficult, fast twitch action games, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound is the way to go, I'm telling you.
I know you said that it was only 6 hours, but it is a challenging 6 hours. Yes. I can tell you this from experience. I think it took me more than 6 hours to get through it because it ramps up. It ramps up level to level with new mechanics, but also just more enemies, tougher enemies, just quicker interactions and Twitch gameplay. It's an incredible game. We've had a lot of very good side-scrolling action games this year, but much like you, I think this is the best one of 2025.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
And then number 6 on my 2025 list is the game called Look Outside. Look Outside is a survival horror RPG, turn-based RPG with 16-bit graphics. It came out earlier in the year, and I had actually touched a little bit of the game early in the year, and it didn't grab at me in any way. I was not interested in it, and I kind of just dropped on it. And then later in the year, they came out with a update of content and their final update to the video game called the 2.0 update. I decided to jump back into that because a lot of people said, hey, you got to break through the seal of the first few hours of that game to really understand how much of that game there is and what to do. And I'm glad I did because it is one of my favorite games that I have played this year. Great soundtrack, incredible art style. It's a 16-bit art style, and at times it seems, very conventional Super Nintendo. But then when you get to certain enemies and they evolve to, you get layer 1 of an enemy, it looks grotesque, but by layer and phase 4 of an enemy, it will be like no thing you've ever seen before. And it becomes, while grotesque and disgusting, it becomes some of the most fascinating and beautiful 16-bit art I've ever seen in a video game. It also features a ton of incredible, funny interactions between you and other players, a bunch of variety too. You can play this game in 20 hours, and when you complete it, I ended up looking into it because I was so fascinated about the game. You can play this game so many different ways. I played with 5 different party members. I ended up finding there's a total of 20. There's 15 other optional party members I could have found at any point. So a little randomization on how you could get those. It also all depends on your interactions. The way the game is played is you start in your apartment, and an event, a catastrophic cosmic style event happens outside, and you're told, do not look outside. If you look outside, you will go crazy. And so you do not, but you have to survive until this event passes beyond Earth so that you can live. But to do that, you also need to get survival elements. Food, you have to clean yourself. You have to survive throughout the 18 days or 20 days that you're supposed to be in there. So you start exploring your apartment. And what's different in my run than other runs is that I don't find everything in the apartment, in maybe 20 days. Other people may, or maybe my decisions that I make in that apartment lead me to different paths. There's a total, I believe, of 10 different endings in the game. I already talked about the party members, but there are occasional times that people will knock at your door, and the way you interact with them, or the way, because you can fight a person, you can talk to a person, you can invite them into your home, you can give them items to help them, you can give them items to hurt them. However way you decide to interact with a character could lead to a fascinating boss fight, as much as it could lead to that person joining your party. And so it makes for my gameplay, when I discuss this with someone else, can be so vastly different than another. And that's what I found so fascinating about this game. I ended up replaying it a total of 3 times, and even save scummed a few of the later times so that I could get 6 of the endings. I did not complete it at 100%, but it's a game I'm so fascinated at that I will definitely be chewing at lore at it for the next year as well. And incredible game to play on your PC and Steam Deck. I hope it eventually does come to console as well, because Look Outside is an incredible indie gem, and I hope more people get to play it.
Yeah, that has been so high on my list of a game that I want to play. And I remember when you told me that you got the chance to play it on Steam Deck, I was like, okay, no excuse anymore. This game looks right up my alley. What a wacky turn-based RPG, but with like such a cool story. I'm so glad you enjoyed it that much. That makes me want to play it even more.
Yeah, I hope other people do, because this is, I feel like this is one of those games that's going to slip through the cracks of 2025, because 2025 is a powerhouse of year when it comes to video games. As you can already tell, we've already talked about 10 different games, and we actually have 10 more that we're going to talk about, but we're going to talk to you about it right after this break. And we're back. We're talking our favorite games of 2025. We went through our 10 to 6 just before the break. It's time to go from 5 all the way to number 1, our games of the year. Chugs, what is your number 5 game of 2025?
And just what a year. I just keep thinking after the first portion of this podcast and thinking about our top 10 games. But now we're at the big top 5. And for me, number 5 was a game that I had played pretty recently for the first time, but my God, I have put so much time into it. That is the new Pokemon game, Pokemon Legends ZA. So I am a massive Pokemon fan. For anyone who listens to this podcast every week, I think in some way, shape, or form, I mentioned playing Pokemon trading card game Pocket every single morning. Again, I have so much experience with Pokemon games over the years. I've played, of course, the original Red and Blue. I played recently the Pokemon Sword and Shield games and really, really enjoyed those. And Pokemon Legends ZA had me very, very intrigued. And the biggest reason was this battle system, this new battle system that they were doing, where it was no longer turn-based Pokemon battles, but like live action battles where you're making the decision of what moves to use. You have like an ATB meter where you have to wait until that move is available again. You're dodging with your character. You're running around with your Pokemon to try to avoid things. And it seemed interesting. I didn't know if I was sold on it yet. But then I actually jumped in and got into the battles. And dude, it's incredible. What an incredible new spin on Pokemon battles. Especially too, they very easily could have stayed with the turn-based system. Pokemon is the most successful video game franchise or entertainment franchise, period, in the entire world. So they could have just stuck to what they've been doing. So I do really appreciate that they wanted to try something new. And I feel like they really knocked it out of the park. Again, I love the live action aspect of it. I love the intensity of the battles. It is just so much fun. But some other things too. First and foremost, it's the best looking and best running Pokemon game that I've ever played. I'm playing Pokemon Legends ZA on my Nintendo Switch 2. It runs at a smooth and clear 60 frames per second, which is just absolutely incredible. The story is very engaging and very interesting. Again, especially for a Pokemon story, this is one that I just wanted to keep digging into more and more and more. And on top of that, this is an open world Pokemon game where you're in this giant city that you can go and explore. So in addition to this being an open world map, in addition to the main quest that you have side quests that you can do. And generally speaking, if I'm playing an open world game, if I'm really into it, I might do a bunch of the side quests, but for the most part, it'll be like focus on the main quest, maybe do a side quest here and there, and then go back to the main quest. Not with Pokemon Legends ZA. I have done every single side quest that I could possibly do because they're all just so incredible. And one of the things I love so much about this side quest system in Pokemon Legends ZA is it's not just random stuff to pass the time. Not only do you get really, really good rewards for doing these side quests, but it also teaches you mechanically about the game. It'll show you which Pokemon are weak to who. It'll teach you more and more about different moves and what they actually do in these situations. Like it does an amazing job of educating you on really important things within the game's mechanics, which I like a lot. These are definitely not just waste of your time side quests. Because again, I learned from side quests that you can find Pokemon on the rooftops. I learned from side quests that some Pokemon show up in wild zones during the day and some show up at night. You just learn so many different things. So, and what I love too about the open world aspect, again, I did want to mention this as well, is so there are wild zones all across the city, which is really, really cool. And you can go into these wild zones and catch these different Pokemon. So again, initially, I thought that was the only way to catch Pokemon. That is not the case. There's Pokemon everywhere, especially in some maybe underground sewer areas or up on the rooftops and things like that. Also, in order to move up in the ranks, again, Pokemon Legends ZA is you start at rank Z and you want to work the whole way up to rank A. So before you have a promotion match, say that you are doing your rank Z match and you want to get to rank Y, you have to wait until the evening and go into these activated battle zones where there are a bunch of trainers all throughout these battle zones that you have to fight. You have to get a certain amount of points to be able to activate your promotion ticket to to be able to fight and move up the ranks. And those battles are so fun because you're running around, you're sneaking up behind Pokemon to get the first strike. You turn a corner hoping you can heal, but there's a trainer there, and you're all flustered, and you have to get right into a fight. And maybe you call your Pokemon back and bring another one out. There's also this amazing system with the mega evolution of your Pokemon, where it just powers up all the moves that you do. It changes the look of your Pokemon as well. And there are countless different examples of mega evolution Pokemon within this game. Again, I know there's at least 250 different Pokemon in this game. Of course, there are the shiny variants as well. So far, I've only gotten 3 shinies, but I'll take it. So yeah, again, this game has been such a joy to play. I've enjoyed it so much. It easily is one of my favorite Pokemon games I have ever played. And I can't wait to jump into it even more. So yeah, my number 5 is Pokemon Legends ZA.
Another game I've not touched this year, that just a reminder that I have so many great games in 2025. I felt like I played more games this year than any other year, probably in the entirety of my life. And yet I still feel like I've missed out on 15 great games, including Pokemon ZA. You talked about it a bunch of times before, how much you love it, but you're not the only one. A lot of people say this might be the best Pokemon in over a decade, since, the DS titles and the GBA titles. I'm excited to get into this eventually, and hearing you say this today as well. I may have to get this one once I'm done with Metroid. This will be my next Switch 2 game, I think, for sure.
It's very fun. I recently, small story, but I recently recommended it to my younger brother who has not played a ton of the new Pokemon games. And I just recommended it to him. And then the other day I managed to see him, and he was sitting there on the couch 20 hours in to Pokemon Legends ZA and he's going, dude, this game's great. I love all the side quests. He was completely into it. So Uno, I'm convinced that you would love Pokemon Legends ZA. Definitely recommend it.
Well, listeners, stick around because stay tuned. I will definitely be back talking about ZA in the future. Number 5 on my games list is another sequel. I talked about Death Stranding 2, and a little spoiler, we'll definitely be talking about another sequel a little later. But Hades 2 came out this year. That is the sequel to Hades, a game that I talked very well about in any publication I've ever written out there. It was part of my game of the years on the year it came out. But Hades 2 is out. Supergiant Games makes a brand new Hades game. This time you are Melanoi, which you are the second child of Hades. You are the daughter of Hades, and in this situation you are not fighting Hades, you are not going through just the underworld, but in this time the main villain is Kronos, the Titan of Time, the father of Hades. If you know anything about Greek mythology, that's what Hades is about. It's about the interpersonal drama between each of the gods, the demigods, the Titans, and so forth. There was no introduction of Titans in the first one. In this second game, we're now talking to the Fates. We're now talking to the Titans. Once again, if you know anything about Greek mythology, all of this will make sense to you. But anyways, you are now tackling the Kronos of Time. And what's so different about Hades or Hades 2 compared to Hades 1 is the addition of extra bits. Yes, of course, it features the same type of combat. It's one of those like over the top. I don't know how to isometric views, roguelike games that are very action focused. You can decide your startup weapon, and then based on that weapon, you can then go into a slot of 2 different doors every time you complete an area. Those doors will give you the option to grab some resources or make a plea and get a gift from one of the gods. Each gods have their own type of impact on your weapons. Ares is more attack power based because he's war based. You've got Poseidon is more water based. You've got wind based ones. You've got speed based ones. You've got ones that charm, so on and so forth. And then eventually, what's very cool about this is as you project forward into the game, as you go through more doors, there's all these synergies on how you can make one power couple with another power. And now suddenly, your bow shoots more than one bolt, and those bolts hit people, which sets other people, with electricity damage, which then webs 8 people to the same amount of damage, and you can then double that up. It's an incredible system that was already in Hades 1. But in Hades 2, they built on it. They now have gear, so you can now wear clothing that will affect, different stats, or will affect your armor, will affect your health, or will create a situation. There are certain gears that when you are hit will do a damage ring around. There are now hexes, which add to all kinds of different challenges, different modifications to your weapons. Obviously, there are new weapons and new interactions with new gods and new demigods and titans as well. There are now pets. You can now have a supporting pet that can help you. Either it picks up resources on the floors, or maybe it shoots at enemies itself, or maybe it takes some of the damage away from you or distracts enemies. There's also a bunch of new music in this game, and by far, I think Hades, the thing that they've done the best is Supergiant, I think, has never made a bad game, but they've especially never made a bad soundtrack, because they make incredible music, and it's just riddled through this game. There's a ton of new titles. There's some return titles from the first game as well. The art is just as beautiful as ever. The voice acting, which was one of the strongest points in the first game, is just as good in this one. Everyone is beautifully acted. The story is incredible. I did not like it as much as Hades 1, but there is some real great interpersonal drama between some of these gods. In fact, that's kind of the reward of every single loop. Every single time you die, you go back, to the home base, you then get more interactions with your family members, with your people at your base, with other gods. And that's actually, it's so fascinating. A lot of times you play these roguelike games and your rewards is like a new weapon, or a new stat boost, or a medallion that helps you. And while this game definitely has all of those things, by far the most important part, you could die within 6 seconds in a run and you would get back to your hub, and they would either, talk to you about you dying in 6 seconds, or they would at least provide you with new lore and new dialogue for you to explore. And that's always been the best loop and the best part of Hades, and in Hades 2, it is no different. It's an incredible sequel. If you liked Hades 1, please go out of your way. Go play Hades 2 right now.
Man, Hades, specifically Hades 2, is like the original Hollow Knight to me, in the sense of it's like a genre-defining title, or it's like a title within the genre that gets you into the genre itself. Kind of like how Hollow Knight got me into Vanias. Hades could get you into roguelikes. Mm-hmm. It certainly made me incredibly interested. So yeah, again, if this was a top 15, I think Hades 2 would have been on there for me too. Okay, so for me, number 4. And this is a game I am actually still playing through, but I am enjoying it so much that it is absolutely, in my opinion, well-deserved this high on the list. And of course, I am talking about the absolutely incredible Ghost of Yote. So I, on purpose, got a PlayStation 5 Pro just for Ghost of Yote, and I'm so glad that I did. This, to me, is the most beautiful game that I've laid my eyes on this year. Definitely one of the most beautiful games I've ever laid my eyes on. Just the open world is absolutely gorgeous. So the original Ghost of Tsushima is one of my favorite original PlayStation games of all time. I loved that game so much. I think that year, Ghost of Tsushima was, my second favorite game that year. I think only beaten by Final Fantasy VII Remake. Mm-hmm. But Ghost of Yote, absolutely incredible. Again, the story itself is incredibly interesting. The voice acting is great. Once again, I love the revenge story aspect of this game. I love that you're thrown in a situation where you're looking for all these different people all across this giant land. I love how different the weather is in these scenarios. The combat, it has definitely been expanded upon. To me, it's very challenging, but it's so cool. All the different options or tools that you have, or how you want to go about fights. For example, generally speaking, I'm the type of guy that likes to go in and just fight enemies head on. In Ghost of Yote, sneaking around is so much fun. And not only is it so much fun, sometimes you're really required to do that based on the difficulty of the enemies. But to me, this open world is the most alive open world I've experienced since something like Red Dead Redemption 2. I mean, there is just so much to do. I remember the first 3 hours I played this game. I did the prologue and then not a single main mission. I just went around and explored the area, whether it's getting cosmetics, finding hot springs, finding wolves, finding enemy camps, and none of it is boring. All of it is so interesting. So Ghost of Yotei, to me, an absolutely incredible title. I actually feel I wish it would have gotten even more love this year. I feel like, again, 2025 was such an unreal year that it's hard to keep track of it all. But Ghost of Yotei is easily one of the best open world games that I've ever played, and it's been an absolute joy.
If this was a top 11 games of 2025 for me, this game would have made the list. This was the one I actually had the hardest time because I wanted to include it and I just couldn't decide what game I would cut. And in the end, Ghost of Yotei was the one I did. And that's a crime because if this game was any other year, it could have won. That's how good of a game it is. It's the most polished open world game I've played in quite some time. I love the first one. This one is just as good. It has multitude of soundtracks. The original soundtrack, the lo-fi soundtrack, all of it is incredible. And much like what you said, just go the minute to minute in that video game is incredible. But be it combat, be it stealth, be it exploration, it never feels like you are slowing down or that there is nothing left to do. There is always something left to do in Ghost of Yotei. It's an incredible game. And if you have a PS Pro as well, it is beautiful. Really, maybe the most gorgeous game, bar Death Stranding 2 I've played this year for me. It hurts me that it didn't make my list, but I'm glad that it made your list this year so we can at least get to talk about it.
Yeah. Just it's such an awesome game, and God, so much to live up to with Ghost of Tsushima as well. And I think it just absolutely knocked it out of the park.
This was game 5, correct? Or game where are we at? 4.
This was game 4.
Okay. All right. I'm about to. We're getting into the big boys here, and also I'm about to get into my opinions that may get people mad. Number 4. On my 2025 list is Hollow Knight Silksong. That's right. We talked, if anything, a lot of people identify our podcast as the Silksong hype podcast because we spent so much time being excited for this game. And I do want to say, this could very well be number 1, and I will explain why it's not to me once I get into 1, 2, and 3. But I was so excited for the release of this game. We waited so long. I got to play the demo back at Gamescom. It felt incredible. And the second this game came out, I tried to digest every little piece of it. And I did play a lot of this game. I, in fact, did not complete Silksong. I played over 40 hours of this game, and with pure confidence, I could say this is one of the best Metroidvania games I have ever played and one of the best games of this year, bar none. I would never, ever fault anyone if they said this was game of the year because I would believe them. But for Evil Uno, who has played this game, I just want to say F Hollow Knight Silksong. And not because it's a bad game. I'm telling you right now, it has some of the most beautiful art. It has some of the most beautiful music. It is pinpoint accuracy fighting, pinpoint accuracy platforming. It's just so pinpoint that it makes me so damn mad sometimes because it is so difficult. They expanded on the original Hollow Knight game in so many ways. First of all, it's a brand new map, way vaster than the first game. So many areas to explore, so many different weapons. But the big thing about this game that feels so different is the main character is not the knight. You are a Hornet, and a Hornet does not play like the Knight in any way, and it takes a long time, or at least it did for me, to adjust my method of play when playing this game, because you cannot play this game like it is the first game because it will humble you. It will chew you out, and it will spit you out, and it did multiple times with me when I played this game, which I love. I will say, I love being challenged. I just got to a point where I could not complete it. Now, I will go back and beat this game. I am telling you right now, I'm not giving up. It will happen. I did not finish it this year, but it will happen. But there has been parts of this game where I was so mad. And I can't even say that the game is badly designed. It's not. Is it unfair at times? Sure. Is it badly designed? No. It's completely accessible. It's completely possible to beat things. But Evil Uno got so pissed at this game on at least 3 occasions. And I've never done this before, but I almost broke my Switch when playing this game at least once or twice. And that's just like... And these are moments I cherish, though. It's when you get into the deep of a fight, you're 40 runs into a boss, and you're at a sliver of health, and they're at a sliver of health. If I had completed that, it would be one of the greatest accomplishments of my life. I would talk about it every time. But because that freaking bug constantly has killed me over 50 times, it's almost made me throw my Switch across the room. But truly a sign of a great game. You're definitely going to be talking more about this. I just want to get my sentiments in there. We can get more into the minutia of the minute-to-minute of this game. What a freaking game. What a challenging game, though. Oh, my God.
Yes, I agree. Like, easily one of the most challenging games that I've ever played. And again, I'm definitely going to have more to say.
Yes.
Wink, wink about Hollow Knight Silksong later. I actually have a very interesting end of my list, which, again, we'll talk about when we get there. But again, I'm so glad it made your list, though, Uno, because Silksong really is such a special game.
It's a powerhouse. What incredible... Like... Truthfully, I can't think of many Metroidvanias I would put on the same echelon. I would put the first game. Yeah. Hollow Knight proper is the only other game I think that is of equal value in Metroidvania style games. It's just a game that is challenging, much like an Elden Ring is challenging in the third person action style. This is so challenging that I'm now becoming, I feel like I'm getting too old to even complete a game like this, which is not true. I know I will do it, right. But just... my hands cannot pull this off. It just cannot. And it's testing my limits of how good I am as a video gamer, which is a great thing. There are a lot of people that are going to get through this. I wish I had gone through it this year because I wish I could say I saw the end to this game, but I did not, unfortunately.
But you will. That's what 2026 is for.
I will.
That's what 2026 is for. Okay, well, Uno, before
time.
I talk more about Silksong, but it's time. We are at our top 3 games each for 2025. So I'm going to jump in right away to my number 3 of 2025 this year, and that game is Silent Hill F.
Ooh.
So this game surprised me in so many different ways, and in a very, very good way. Once again, with the addition of Silent Hill 2 remake with Blooper Team and how incredible they did with that remake, I think there was a lot of hype surrounding Silent Hill. And Silent Hill F being on the horizon was very, very exciting for me and a lot of people, especially the fact that it was taking in place in 1960s Japan. It was like a completely different environment. And I want to say right off the bat, before I go into detail of Silent Hill F, and I will also, again, this is a end of the year podcast, so I am going to say some minor or even some major story aspects of this game, because I really feel like on this list, we're going to have to probably openly discuss quite a few things. I won't go into complete detail on everything, but I think for everyone to understand why this game is so high on my list, a big reason is understanding its story. But what I did want to say is what I appreciate so much about, to me, all the best Silent Hill games have like really taken a chance. Like when you look at Silent Hill 1 to Silent Hill 2, that jump is so massive, specifically story-wise. It was completely different than the first game in so many different ways. And to me, Silent Hill F gives me the same energy as a Silent Hill 2. And I mean that as the highest compliment, because Silent Hill 2 is absolutely my favorite psychological horror game of all time. This game, once again, it takes place in 1960s Japan. And the main character you are playing as, long story short, it is battling with the idea of feeling like she needs to be and act a certain way in 1960s Japan, but her inner self doesn't want to do that. She wants to be her own woman. She wants to do her own thing. She doesn't want to have to follow these norms of being what she's becoming. And the game takes you on such a creative and fascinating and dark and twisted ride of that entire process. There are a million different twists and turns. There are a million different aha moments within this game. Again, to me, one of the strongest things about Silent Hill as a whole is the way they go about their psychological horror storytelling. And Silent Hill F, to me, completely nails it. Absolutely nails it. And speaking of taking chances with going about this game the way that they did, I think the biggest chance that they took was the way that you do digest and process this entire story. Because Silent Hill F is not meant to be played one time. Silent Hill F is meant to be played multiple times. And on each playthrough, you learn more and more and more about what this game is really about and what story it's really trying to tell. And that to me is just freaking awesome. To have the guts to do that, especially in a year like 2025 when we're every week getting new titles. If you really want to appreciate and understand Silent Hill F, you have to play it multiple times. And all I'm going to say for people who like psychological horror storytelling, it's incredibly rewarding. Again, this story, it's a Silent Hill game, so a warning there as well. The game is incredibly dark and does cover some pretty heavy topics, but they do it in such a creative and fascinating way that it took me and so many others on this just absolutely incredible and heartbreaking horror ride. So I absolutely adored Silent Hill F. And then some other things too is, once again, the music, it's Silent Hill, baby. Like, the music fits the setting and the scene so well. The enemy designs are also done so incredibly well, not only because they're horrifying, but because, similar to Silent Hill 2, all of these monsters are like the way they are for a reason, based on what the main character is battling with or going through in her own mind. Same thing with the boss fights as well. Speaking of boss fights, the combat, a major new factor of Silent Hill F as well, with the parry system and the stamina system. And by no means is this like a Dark Souls game at all. To me, the stamina system just further increases the tension. So you can't spam heavy attacks over and over again, or you just destroy every single enemy. In Silent Hill F, you have to make calculated decisions, where if you want to do a normal attack, it's not going to do near as much damage. But if you want to do a heavy attack and hopefully stagger the enemy, it's going to take 2 or 3 seconds to get that heavy attack off. This horrifying monster is coming at you. So you are just on the edge of your seat the entire game. And I love that so much. So to me, Silent Hill F was one of the most creative games I have played this year. Certainly one of the most creative psychological horror games that I've ever played this year. And I would love for the Silent Hill franchise to continue to tell stories like this, where you really have to dig deep, really jump into the juicy lore, because you know I love juicy lore. Oh, yeah. There's so much juicy lore in this game. It exceeded my expectations in so many different ways, and I just easily one of my favorite experiences this year with Silent Hill F.
This is another game that just shy of making my list. It was, the time I spent with it was incredible. To later find out that this game has the nuts of wanting you to beat it, I believe maybe a total of even 4 times. But each time gets more and more involved, more and more deeper into the story, deeper into the mind of the main character. I think is super fascinating as a concept, especially in Silent Hill. If you've played any of the previous games, as you're playing, you understand how that can expand upon. I thought aesthetically, it also was one of the most beautiful games this year. The 1970s Japan setting is gorgeous, while simultaneously everything that you tackle, all the enemies, a lot of the bosses are so grotesque, very Silent Hill-like. There are some truly gruesome things. There's also some really unsettling parts, and it's not always constant. This is also a game that doesn't really do jump scares. It's really more atmospheric horror, or anticipatory horror. So like you'll know and you'll see something grotesque, but it's not jumping at your face. You have no choice but to tackle it. And that's part of what's so scary about this game, is that you have to confront the feelings. You have to confront those enemies. I'm glad it came out, because I really want Silent Hill to continue forward, because I feel like we have missed these games that are less about jump scares and more about like emotional drama, emotional and sadness and so on. And I think Silent Hill is a very important part of survival horror. I hope we get way more of them.
Right. Because again, going off of what you said, just one more small note, but this game covers exactly like you said, Uno, some like incredibly uncomfortable topics, but like does it in such a fascinating way. I love that the game makes you think. I love that the game makes you read every single note that you get. I love that the game makes you overanalyze every single cutscene that you watch. Like the game just had completely locked its jaws into me, wanting to figure out really what this story was about and what it was going after. And I really do. I think they absolutely knocked it out of the park with this one.
I'm excited to go back to it. I definitely didn't do all the endings, and I'm one of those people that came close to it and was like, all right, I'm done, not knowing there was so much more to this content. I'm fascinated. I definitely will be going back after our discussion. Number 3 on my list. All right, I talked about Silksong and about how mad it made me. This game made me the complete opposite of that, and that's Donkey Kong Bonanza. I've talked about this before, but I am an incredibly huge Donkey Kong fan. Donkey Kong Country 2 may be still one of the top 3 games ever in my mind. It's hard every year we get these new games. It's hard to level it against my nostalgia, but they're games that I can always go back to. I always feel fond of. I always get these cherished moments from when I'm a kid playing them. And I also loved a lot of I love Donkey Kong 64. I loved even the TV show, the Donkey Kong 2000 or late 90s, early 2000s show, which was not very good. But, retroactively, I knew it wasn't good. But at the time, I freaking loved it. To know that Donkey Kong Bonanza, a brand new 3D title, is coming to the Switch too, Donkey Kong getting his own game, made me so happy, made me so excited. And to finally play this game and to find out that not only my reward for the excitement, but I'm going to be exploring something I didn't think at all was going to be a Donkey Kong game is such a great reward, because this doesn't feel like a Donkey Kong game. Truthfully, this feels like a Mario game. This feels like this could have very well be a 3D Mario title. The hook of this game, and by far the most fun part of this game, is that it is a digging game. It's a game about digging in the earth and breaking terrain and scaling terrain and using terrain to attach other terrains to build bridges, stuff that I would never think identifies with Donkey Kong, but somehow they've made it work where Donkey Kong is strong enough to break through any material around you. And by far, that is the most fun part of this game. When I start punching into a wall and I can just start traversing in tunnels, and every time I traverse in these tunnels and I dig deeper into a mountain, I find more secrets. I find bananas, I find coins, I find characters, I find brand new areas, I find challenges. That's the simplest form of this game, is just punching forward, destroying things, and it makes me so happy how well that works. And a thing I'm now going to identify, I think, with Donkey Kong, which I don't think I would have before. But that's not all about this game. It has incredibly joyful music. It's got such colorful scenery. The levels are so varied that there's also so many of them. It's a much longer game than you ever would think a Donkey Kong game is. It's constantly rewarding you with new skills and new beautiful music. I think it has over 140 tracks, including some throwback tracks, which, of course, who doesn't want to hear some old Super NES themes? And talking about Super NES, it even has these challenge levels within the game that has the Super NES element to it. It has a 2D platforming element to it that, truthfully, if they had just taken this out of this game, could have very well been its own Donkey Kong Country game, but to just pepper it in there, kind of like when Odyssey did all of the 8-bit format Mario levels within the overarching Odyssey game, the same is done in Donkey Kong, and I appreciate that stuff so much. And above all, I don't want to talk too much about it because I know you're definitely going to have some points to say as well, but it also has one of the coolest late half of a video game I've ever played, because I was so happy with this game 20 hours in. I was like, man, what a journey. This is it. I'm done. And man, what a great game. The last 20 hours after that maybe even better than the first 20 hours, because not only does it just ramp up with more stuff, but man, if you are a fan of Donkey Kong, it rewards every little bit of fandom you've ever had. It's towards the tail end of this game, it really is fascinating how much I love Donkey Kong and how I did not know I loved it that much until towards the end of this game. It made me so happy. I hope everyone gets to play it. Donkey Kong Bonanza, my number 3 game of the year.
Well, Uno, truth be told, I really couldn't have said it better myself. And my number 2 is Donkey Kong Bonanza.
There we go.
So going off more of what you said, first of all, I agree with literally everything that you said. I think the idea of, or just the mechanic in general of, like you said, it being a digging game, and everywhere that you go, you're rewarded in some capacity, whether it's a new area, new items, new characters to speak to. Like, I had never seen anything to that level before, especially within like a 3D environment. And all I wanted to say too is I respect and appreciate so much that Nintendo really does continue to experiment with these like super important franchises to them. Like thinking of a 3D Donkey Kong game, this is the last thing I would have thought
absolutely
of them doing.
Yeah.
And they did it. Not only did they do it, it's one of the best 3D platformers like ever made. In my opinion. I mean, they just absolutely nailed this. So I do appreciate that they continue to experiment and try new things. And this experiment to me really, really worked. Again, so many references to so many great songs, so many references to a bunch of cool different enemies. I love the friendship between Donkey Kong and Pauline. I think that's incredible too. The amount of time I put into this game, it just absolutely flew by. And then I do want to say too, in addition to all the cool different like power-ups and animals that you can become and stuff, which is just such a cool different addition to this. The boss fights are a lot of fun too. All of those are so different as well. But the biggest point I wanted to harp on and agree with you on is, dude, the last 15 to 20% of that game, unreal.
Yeah.
Just absolutely unreal. Like as it all snowballs and continues to unfold, I'm like, it may be odd. It really might be one of my favorite endings like of all time. It's such an amazing ending to a really, really amazing game. So yeah, I was very excited about this, Uno. I don't even know if I was as excited about it as you were, but I was very excited about it. Man, I loved it so much. It's my number 2, Donkey Kong Bonanza.
And honestly, we're about to get into the heavy hitters once again, but any other year, this would be my game of the year. Any other year, yeah. I joyfully cried playing this game. There were a few moments when things happened, and it wasn't like when we play Final Fantasy VII, we talk about how the soundtrack makes you think of like you being young, and it makes you feel like, wow, I can't believe it's back, and you have like that's like melancholy sadness in you. This was the opposite. Like, it made me so happy. I'd get tears where I'm like, I can't believe Donkey Kong is back, and it's good and it's great. It's I'm excited. I hope they make more. I hope they make more Donkey. I hope this is a sign that Donkey Kong is back as a prevalent title and as a prevalent IP in Nintendo history.
It has to be.
Yes.
After a title like this, after Donkey Kong Bonanza, there's no way. And it sounds like we're going to get a lot more great Donkey Kong titles in the future. But my God, what a game. What a game.
Now, I kind of know what your number one is going to be. And so I think we should talk about your number one and my number 2 simultaneously. But do you want to talk about your caveat now, or should we get into this first bit first?
I think it's up to you. I can just go into my caveat for
Let's do that.
1 if you would like. Do you want to do it that way?
Yes, please.
Okay. So what Uno is talking about is this is the first time ever this has happened. Again, sometimes it's really, really difficult to come up with a top 10. And I know this may sound like I'm cheating or taking a shortcut, but trust me when I tell you, I have been thinking about this for weeks and weeks and weeks. And when I think about my number 1 game, and I think about the game that impacted me the most, these 2 titles are the games that impacted me the most. So truth be told, I have a 1A and a 1B as far as my favorite games this year, because I could not for the life of me make a decision. 1A for me is Hollow Knight Silksong, and 1B for me is, you guessed it, Clair Obscur Expedition 33. So I do want to jump in first to Hollow Knight Silksong. And what was so cool, and it's part of why I love video games so much, is the experiences that you have with these games will like hang on to you forever. Let me first and foremost say that Hollow Knight Silksong and Clair Obscur Expedition 33 are two of the best video games I've ever played in my life.
Absolutely.
I enjoyed them that much. This year was just, and speaking of Uno, you had said this before, any other year, there is no doubt in my mind it would have been Hollow Knight Silksong, and nothing even came close. Like, no doubt in my mind. So the fact that Expedition 33 tied with Silksong for me just shows how much that game impacted me. But again, another reason I liked both of these games so much is they were both so memorable, but both so different. But first and foremost, with Hollow Knight Silksong, again, I've talked at length about how much I love the original Hollow Knight. Me, like the rest of the world, have been waiting years and years and years for Silksong. Every single showcase, every single direct there's ever been, constantly, every other line is Silksong, Silksong, Silksong when. People just could not wait for this game. The hype around this game was unlike anything I had ever seen. It was certainly the most hyped I ever was for a game. And then we got the release date. Then the day the game comes out, it shuts down every single storefront, Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, Steam. I had never seen anything like it. And then eventually, after a few hours, I was able to get the game. And the second I saw that title screen, it was magic. It was like everything I had waited for was finally right here. My expectations were so unbelievably high, and Silksong exceeded them. Again, this game, similar to what you had said earlier, Uno, is this game is very different from Hollow Knight. But what I love so much about it is it absolutely feels like a Hollow Knight game, but it doesn't play like the original Hollow Knight at all. Hornet obviously has so many more tools at her disposal, so the game is much faster. You have way more ways to do damage, but there are more enemies and definitely faster enemies. So the combat was certainly something to adjust to in the beginning, but then as you play over and over again and you get more and more used to the combat, it just feels absolutely incredible. So for the month and a half that I played this game, I put over 100 hours into Hollow Knight Silksong, and my first playthrough I got 100% because there was no way I was not going to explore every single corner of this game, and I'm so glad that I did. Every single morning that I woke up, I thought, oh my God, I'm so excited that I can play Silksong today. And every single time I played it, it not only never disappointed me, but it surprised me, it fascinated me. But Hollow Knight made me fall in love with Metroidvanias. Silksong made me fall in love with video games even more. That's just how much I love this game. I have to also mention, again, Christopher Larkin, who did the soundtrack for Silksong. Just an absolutely beautiful soundtrack. Mm-hmm. Just earlier today, I was listening to the Silksong soundtrack. The songs are just so perfect and fit the environment so well. You know, for example, again, minor area spoilers for this game, but when you go and explore and find bile water, this really nasty, difficult area within the game, the song is like eerily beautiful. It like fits the vibe so well. And then you go to an area like Coral Chambers, where it's this beautiful, majestic, almost religious-like experience, and the music just like exemplifies it so well. That game has no wasted steps, no wasted motion. Every single NPC that you encounter has something to say. Every single enemy that you encounter has something to say. This game just has so much to say. And Team Cherry had so much to live up to with Hollow Knight Silksong. And my God, they nailed it. They absolutely nailed it. And then also too, again, minor spoilers, well, actually, in some ways, major spoilers for the kind of the structure of the game. But the first time you play through the game and you get the first initial ending for this game, you're like, wow, what a title. And then as you continue to dig deeper and deeper and deeper and do every single side quest and get to the end and then realize you have to do something else to the final boss to get a different interaction. And then when the game ends and you think, oh, that's cool, but then you realize there's an act 3. You realize there's a whole other act within this game, hours and hours and hours of more content that you have to explore with such a deeper story to jump into. That's the other thing too. I know we talked about this before, but Silksong's story is definitely much more easy to digest, I think. And I mean that as the highest compliment. There's still like lore and pieces that you have to dig and figure out, but you definitely understand easier what is going on and what is happening. I seriously, I could go on for another hour about how much I love Silksong, but I know I already cheated and did a 1A and 1B, so I will jump into the next one. And Uno, I know you're going to have a bunch to say too, but 1B for me, of course, is Clair Obscure Expedition 33.
Number 2 for me, just so we're all clear. Number 1, number 2 here. We're both ready to talk. Okay. And by the way, this is maybe the game I'm the most excited to talk about on a panel ever.
Me too. Uno, you still don't mind if I go?
Oh, please go for it. No, you go for it.
Okay. So again, this game impacted me just as much as Hollow Knight Silksong, but again, it was a completely different scenario. I had absolutely zero hype or anticipation for this game. I remember seeing it in a Xbox Developer Direct and thinking, oh, they're doing a turn-based RPG with like some timed mechanics. Oh, that looks really cool. The graphics look pretty cool. But I wasn't like counting the days for this game to come out. And the hype that surrounded this game leading into me eventually playing it was so cool, because to me, it was just that traditional word of mouth. It was like a few people played it and would tell their friends or tell the internet, like, dude, this Expedition 33 game is unreal. And then after hearing that enough times, more and more people get the chance to play this game. Oh, on top of that, I did not play this game off stream. I actually played it on stream. So it was like a slow burn for me. With Silksong, I would wake up every single morning and get to play it for hours. I'm not able to stream every day. So I only got to, maybe play it 2 or 3 times a week for a while. But my God, the absolute roller coaster ride that this game takes you on is unlike anything I have ever experienced before. I've said this before as well. If you're unsure if you want to try out Expedition 33, maybe you're not crazy about turn-based games, you'll know after the prologue. You'll know immediately after the prologue, because the second I finished the prologue of that game, I knew this was going to be something special. Didn't know it was going to be as special as it ended up being. But my God, there's so many things that this game does right. I'm going to save the story stuff for the end. But first and foremost, the turn-based mechanics within this game are done so perfectly in like a new school way. Again, I love turn-based RPGs, but they're not for everybody. In this game, there's timed dodges, there's timed parries. You are so much more interactive while you're doing your turn-based combat. And let me tell you, when you execute a parry correctly, it's maybe the most rewarding feeling in gaming I've had this year. Like, it just feels so cool between the audio design and the way your character strikes the enemy. It is so awesome, so fun. Again, the open world itself was also such a joy to explore, which over time got larger and larger. And over time, you're getting more and more tools to be able to traverse this open world, which is really, really cool. I mentioned about Hollow Knight Silksong having a great soundtrack. Expedition 33 soundtrack is maybe the greatest soundtrack in the history of video games.
It's up there for sure. Nothing has ever been like it, for sure.
Right. Nothing has been like it. It is just so unbelievable. Every single song just filled with so much love and passion. So many songs gave me absolute chills and goosebumps. It was so amazing. And Uno, again, I don't want to say too much here, but the last thing I do want to mention, and once again, we did discuss this, but we are going to mention some spoilers
we have to.
For Expedition 33 in regards to the story, because in order to really explain how special this game is, you got to talk a little bit about the story. And first, talking about the characters in this game, every single character within the party that you interact with is so interesting. Like, there's not a single character that's like, I don't really care about them. Every single one has a fascinating backstory, and every single one is so different. So again, for those who have been living under a rock, the general idea of Expedition 33 is you're in this town called Lumiere, and there is someone called the Paintress who is off very distant, very far from you. And there's this mountain, and she turns and she paints a number on this mountain, and whatever number that is, the people who are aged that and older just disintegrate. They just disappear. They're just gone from this world. And every single year, that number gets lower and lower. And every single year, they go on an expedition where the ones who were a year away from that number being theirs, they sail out into the open land to try to find this paintress and figure out what is going on. The unbelievable twists and turns within this game are so incredibly fascinating. I've said before that if you've not experienced the game at this point, maybe don't listen to us for 5 minutes and then come back, because it's something that you definitely want to experience. But you think you have a general idea of where this story is going, and you find out you have no idea. And as it continues to unfold, I'm going to speak in generalities, I guess, at this point. But the story, at the end of the day, Expedition 33 is about how we all handle grief. In my opinion, some people handle grief a certain way. Some people handle it a different way. But coming to terms with the fact that sometimes you do have to say goodbye, sometimes you do have to let go, and never disregarding how incredibly challenging and difficult that is. I don't even know how far into it I want to go. I could go like real deep into it with you, Uno, which I kind of think I want to, just because
because we've been waiting on it.
we've been waiting on it so bad, but then I also feel weird just in case no one's played it before. But
let me get in here and say that, you know what,
please.
both of us have absolutely enjoyed Expedition 33. It's by far maybe this is a bombshell of video game. First of all, I never thought this game would be close to being my game of the year. I never thought it would be this good. I was never even fascinated with it when they teased it at this Xbox Direct that we talked about it before. This game caught on like wildfire, and I completely understand why. I only just recently completed this game. I had played 40 hours of it before and decided I wanted to restart from scratch and make sure I consume every single minute, because that's how good it was. I played all of it, just completed it, I think, over 3 weeks ago, and I have thought about that game repeatedly, be it the music
every day.
We talked about this earlier, but the music has some of the most crazy music ever. It could go from melodramatic, beautifully sung French songs that make you incredibly sad, to some sound like songs that make you feel like you've got nitrogen in your veins, like you could punch through a wall or run through a brick wall. The soundtrack is like no other game I've ever played. Much like, I'd like to compare it to like Persona. If I hear a song, I could tell instantly if it's from Persona, because it has a unique style. No other game would ever sound like this. This game has its own unique style. Nothing has ever sounded so French as this game, and I mean that in a proper way. It just... You hear it too, and you're like, oh, I know exactly what game that's from. No other game could ever sound and feel like this. But for as good as that is, and also the combat, I will say, I don't want to keep reflecting what you're saying, but you're absolutely correct. To me, it solves the biggest issue with turn-based RPGs, and that's that it becomes redundant and it becomes a grind. In this game, if you do not parry and you do not learn how to dodge, you cannot complete the game, and it makes every battle that much more interesting, much more fascinating. It makes everything minute to minute worth playing, and I think that makes it one of the best RPGs of all time. But all of that to say, it has the wildest story I've ever played, I think, in a video game. It's a 3-act story, and I think on several points, mid-act, I thought, oh my God, I can't believe they went there. End of an act, same thing, all the way to the ending. I was constantly amazed by the twists and turns that it went. It never beats you on the head with its lore. You kind of just unravel it as you play. And if you decide to go onto side content, which there is so much side content to play, that could be its own podcast. We could talk about that. But if you go to the side content and start investigating that stuff, you'll learn so much more about the world. It's a fascinating world they built. And here comes the spoiler, because I feel like we have to say it.
Yes,
this has a 3-act setup, and each time an act ended, I was like, holy crap. Okay, I'm sorry we're going to say it. In the first act, they kill the main character.
The main character.
the person that you invest all of your time in for 15 hours, they finish the first act by killing it. Which that on its own,
I'm sorry. I just want to quickly say, to me, that was like as impactful is when spoilers for a 1997 JRPG, but when Aerith dies in the original Final Fantasy VII, I had the same feeling. I'm like, I have used this character the entire game. I have every time I controlled my character, I was using this character. I'm like, oh, he's going to be my main guy until the end. And then, like you said, at the end of Act 1, they kill him.
Which is crazy because every point of reference at this point, every like your concept of the world is attached to the main character. And so they kill them off in the first act, which is an insane move. Then Act 2, they reintroduce you to a new character and a new slew of party members to add to your group. And I don't want to get too far into like the minutia of things, but Act 2 has a heck of a twist. And then the Act 3 onwards is like playing a completely different. It's like playing a completely different story. The scope of the story becomes gigantic. The scope of the game, I think the game feels massive. And then when you get into Act 3 and you have the full scope of verticality of the game at that point, when you could actually go to every single place on the overworld map and you could actually explore everything and start grinding the way that you would on any other RPG, it becomes one of the largest games I think I've ever played. But that Act 3 is insane. It's batshit crazy, and it all leads to a very emotionally poignant ending that makes you have a decision. And it's one that I want to ask you right now, Chugs. Did you go Mael or did you go Verso?
Oh, truth be told, Uno, I did both. I ended up reloading a save to do the second one. But as far as my initial choice, and looking back, I don't know if it was the right decision. I chose Mael.
I did the opposite. I did the same thing as you, but I started with Verso. And you know what? I wasn't Team Verso until maybe 5 minutes till the very ending.
Yes.
Where I felt so conflicted, and I was like, no, if this is me, this is what I would do. And I think that's what's so great about this game is constantly it subverts what you're expecting, and constantly it's posing you new questions. And it may be one of the most incredible games I've played in quite some time, and it's by far the game I'm going to be suggesting to people the most, even though this was just game number 2 in my list.
Yes, and just one more small thing before we continue, because again, we could do an entire 3-hour Expedition 33 podcast, I'm sure. But I love how the game, like you had said, constantly diverts your expectations. It also makes you question who the hero and who the villain is as well. Yes. It's such an engaging and interesting and thought-provoking story that was told better than I've ever seen it be told before. It's, my God, I will be thinking about that game for the rest of my life. It's just absolutely incredible. And Uno, that's only your number 2, dude.
I know.
I know. Number 2.
And just another thing on Expedition 33, I am so excited to find out that they will be expanding upon the world they built, because I don't even want a direct sequel necessarily of what they've told us story-wise, but the world they built has indications of so much extra lore that I am... And we can't talk about it here because then at that point now I'm definitely just telling you the very ending of this game. But
yeah,
it presents you with it builds you a world that I want to know more about that could go in so many directions, and I'm very excited to see what's the next step in Expedition 33, because they have promised there will be more exploration of Clair Obscur and this world, and I'll be there for it. I tell you right now, this is their first game, but they have my attention. No matter what they make next, I will be playing.
Yeah.
And finally, game number 1 on my list of 2025 is a game that I've talked about all damn year. And when making this list, it became so difficult to do because Expedition 33 is such a special game. But if I have to speak for myself and I have to speak for my interests and what Evil Uno is all about, my favorite game of 2025 is Blueprints.
There we go.
We talk about this. I'm the puzzle master. I'm a big puzzle guy. Above anything else, if you present me with a puzzle, I like that almost beyond most forms of entertainment. I think I'd rather solve a puzzle than watch a movie or listen to music or so on and so forth. It's something about how structurally the thought of someone having to build that puzzle before me having to get through it and find the solution fascinates me. And that's what's so fascinating about Blueprints, because Blueprints is a game about you are a child who inherits a mansion, and the mansion is essentially a giant escape room. Think about it as a giant escape room where there are multiple rooms, but if you get to room 46, you will get the full scope of your inheritance and you will fully understand what the mansion is. Now, much like Expedition 33, I'm going to spoil some slight stuff, but don't worry, it's kind of hard to spoil what this game is because this is a puzzle of a game. It's a mansion with a bunch of rooms, and the way it works, every time you go into a doorway, you actually decide what room you place in the doorway. They give you 3 blueprints. Yes, blueprints. You get to choose from one of them, and the way you slot those blueprints are to try and navigate you to the secret room 46, and that is what you are trying to open. Now, that's just scratching the surface of what this game is, and it's very hard to talk about this because there is actually quite a lot of lore and a lot of world building in this game. Now, will you completely get enthralled by that lore? That's up to you. I was so consumed by this game. This is one of the games, I talked about this before as well, but The Witness is another one of these games where I spend so much time on these puzzles, so much time just deciphering languages and concepts that I started a notebook. And that notebook just become like a bunch of scribbles. And if you had looked at it, it would make me look like a crazy person. Blueprints is exactly the same. I started taking tabs on what each room was, what was in each room, what puzzles within those rooms are. How does that puzzle reflect to another room? Why does this room interacting with that room do this? Why does placing a room on this corner of the mansion do this? My book looks insane of the notes I took for this game. Because it is a mansion filled with logic puzzles, math puzzles, deduction puzzles, chess puzzles. Truthfully, it has so much puzzle in this. It's damn near impossible to see the scope of it because you think you understand what this game is, and it keeps going. And here comes my slight spoiler on this game. It's made me feel so smart to complete this game because so few people have. And I don't mean that in a way to pat myself on the back, but the fact that I committed hundreds of hours to get to the very end of this because I needed to. I felt consumed by it. I needed to see the very end. I need to tell you, if you're playing this game and you haven't even reached room 46, if you reach room 46, you're maybe a quarter of the game through. The mansion itself already feels like a massive puzzle to figure out, and then you realize the mansion is not it. There are basements. There are things around the mansions. The grounds itself expand into a network of tunnels, and those tunnels have puzzles, and those tunnels have lore, and those reach into those puzzles affect the other puzzles, and suddenly, no matter what you're doing, no matter what your run is, because this is a roguelike puzzle game. Every time you play this game, it is randomized. You cannot perform the exact action you want every single time. You have to figure out what you're capable of doing with the pieces you have. But every time you are slowly unraveling another layer to this onion, and another layer to this onion, until you realize that every single piece of this video game intertwines in a way that I am so fascinated on. How did they make this? That, I think, is the biggest thing about puzzle games, is every time I play one, how does one create such a big intertwining labyrinth of puzzles, and how do they make it make sense? And how did I get there on my own volition, on my own wits as well? This might be my favorite game I've ever played. I know it will not be for everyone. This is a niche game that plays to very specific type of people, but as someone who has always wanted to be a detective, has always loved puzzles, who loves deduction stuff and loves to be challenged with little puzzles that I know the clues are in front of me, this is by far my favorite puzzle game I have ever played. Finally, pushing The Witness as my number 2. If you like puzzle games, please go out of your way. Go play Blueprints. Look as little into things about it as possible, because it is such an experience to go through it and take notes and slowly unravel the mystery as you're playing. It is my number 1 game and my favorite game maybe of all time, my 2025 game of the year.
Dude, what a year.
Seriously.
But it's the first time I've had 2 number 1s, 2 of the best games I've ever played. You played maybe your favorite game of all time, and there's still dozens of other games that we could have talked about that dropped this year. 2025 will go down as one of the greatest years in gaming as far as games released ever of all time. I'll never forget this year.
Me too. And I think what's so cool about 2025 is while we both have a lot of similar titles, we have 3 titles of the 10. I think anyone's list could be 10 different ones with the exception of maybe Expedition 33. I feel like that's going to be on everyone's list. There has been so many strong titles in 2025. It is truthfully one of the best years I've ever played video games in. Hopefully, not for the rest of my life though. I hope we keep getting more games of this caliber and higher. But for this year alone, truly, what a great game! What a great year for video games. So good. Now, we did it. We talked 2 hours about our game of the years, but that's not it for our episode. Of course, we've got end of the episode stuff coming up, including the producer quiz and your questions, which we will answer right after this.
And welcome back to episode 89 of the All Elite Arcade podcast. I believe our longest podcast episode ever, and for good reason, because 2025 was filled with just so much incredible video games. But our last segment on the podcast this week is going to be the producer quiz and the community mailbag. But before we get started with the community mailbag, we of course are going to jump into the producer quiz. So myself and Evil Uno have to answer 3 questions that our producers have been kind enough to send to us. We're having a little game, a little competition going on to see who gets the most answers right. And Uno, are you ready to jump into it?
I am.
Well, and this is a note from our producers as well for this producer quiz. The quiz theme for this week is Hideo Kojima. We felt like he didn't get enough love during the Video Game Awards, so we celebrate him in this week's quiz. I love it. I love me some Kojima. Okay, question 1. What was the very first game Hideo Kojima worked on at Konami? A, Antarctic Adventure. B, Penguin Adventure. C, Chili Willy's Quest. Or D, Ice Climber? Oh, man.
Okay, here's the thing. I vaguely just remember penguins, and I think that somebody must have caught on to that because all 4 of these have penguins in them. But I think I'm going to go with Chili Willy's Quest, number C. I'm not confident. I'm not confident.
I am not confident either. And truth be told, the only one I know on this list is D, Ice Climber. But I doubt he worked on that. Okay, I'm just going to go with my gut. I'm going to go D, Ice Climber.
All right.
That's what I'm going to go with. That complete shot in the dark. Question 2. Which 2 cult classic games did Kojima develop while at Konami to showcase his love for hard-boiled noir and sci-fi cinema? Is it A, Snatcher and Police Knots, B, Robotech Battlecry and Snatcher, C, Android Assault and Police Knots, or D, Cyborg 009 and Snatcher? I am going to go with A, Snatcher and Police Knots.
I am also going to go with A, Snatcher and Police Knots.
Okay. I do remember reading that Kojima did work on Police Knots. I'm not too sure about Snatcher, but that one just feels right to me.
I believe
so we're both answering A.
I think I know this one pretty well. I think both of those are his games, so I believe those are definitely it.
Yes. Okay. And question 3, which of these games does Kojima not make a cameo in? A, Cyberpunk 2077. B, Dance Dance Revolution 2nd Remix.
Oh, wow.
B, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. Or D, Control.
So this is a tough one because
This is a tough one.
Even mentioning Metal Gear Solid 5 makes me think, well, then why? Like, he made that game. Or he was at least a part of the production of that game, although it was his last game with Konami.
Right.
I'm going to go with my gut here and say that D, Control is the only game he's not featured in. And I don't know that for sure, but I've played Control. I do not remember him being in there.
Yeah. That's also kind of what I was leaning towards as well.
All right.
But, okay, for fun, I'm just going to pick a different answer. For fun, though, I'm going to go B, Dance Dance Revolution 2nd Remix. But I think you might be right. But there we go. That is the producer quiz for this week. Again, we will go through the answers for the producer quiz at the very end of today's episode, which unfortunately is very soon. It's actually right after the community mailbag. But Uno, I know you wanted to jump into something a little bit before we jump into that.
That's right. If we're talking about the community mailbag, and we do every single episode, if you want your questions answered, go to tbs.com/arcade mailbag. We cannot talk about it without talking about our friends Upper Deck, who sponsor this segment of the show. Thank you to Upper Deck for doing so. Upper Deck is cracking open the most electrifying AEW trading card release yet. That is the 2025 SP Game Used set. Available now, it is AEW's first ever Game Used product, and it's stacked with pieces from the ring. Each box, it delivers 1 autograph, 2 memorabilias, and a tech insert card. Whether you're chasing match used relics, tech layered rarities, this release is pure adrenaline for collectors. Collectors can now get their hands on a box in their local hobby shops. Visit upperdeck.com to find a store near you. We actually have a metal pack from Upper Deck. This is the previous pack that they've released, also available out there. Upper Deck, what do we have today? We have Chris Statlander.
Chris Statlander?
Yes. Yep. John Moxley.
Oh.
Whoa, Nyla with laser eyes.
Oh, let's go.
Darius. MJF. Juice Robinson with his big old hair.
Oh, let's go.
And there you have it. Metal pack.
Great pack.
One of our favorite ones that's got the sheen on it. But of course, if you are looking at upperdeck.com, you can find a store near you that offers that, as well as the new 2025 SP Game Used set. Thank you again to Upper Deck. We've got 2 questions this week, Chugs.
Yes.
What do we have?
2 questions. Question 1 from Sutton. Sutton, thank you very much for the question. Hey, Chugs and Uno. I love the positive vibes you guys bring to the topic of video games, and I really look forward to the show every week. Well, thank you very much. To preface my question for you guys, I listen to the Verge cast, and they just had an episode where they look back at their mild, medium, and spicy tech predictions from the beginning of the year to see if any of them actually came true. I'd like to ask you both, what are your mild, medium, and spicy gaming predictions for 2026? It'd be fun to check in at the end of the year to see if you were right. Ooh. Okay, so 3 predictions, 1 being mild, 1 being medium, 1 being spicy. Very interesting. Very interesting.
I think I've got a set of answers if you'd like me to get started.
Okay. Yeah. Uno, you go ahead while I wrap my brain around this.
All right. Well, I'm going to start with mild. I'm going to say this. I don't know if you saw this, but Team Cherry just announced a DLC for Silksong. And my mild prediction is that the Sea of Sorrow, the DLC for Silksong, will be quite good.
Yeah, I like
that is my mild prediction for the year. My medium prediction for the year is that we're not only going to get a new Control game, I think we're going to get a brand new Remedy game announced in 2026 as well, supplementary to Control. They've been doing a much faster pace on their video games recently, and I feel like I remember they were claiming that they were working on 3 different games. They already talked about FBC. They've now talked about Control Resident. I have a feeling we're going to see another Remedy game announced by the end of 2026. And my spiciest take of 2026 is going to be the return of Conker to a Nintendo platform. I'm going to say Conker shows up in some way, shape, or form on the Switch 2 in 2026. I don't know in what way, but I feel like it's time Conker comes back.
I love those. And I think those are all going to come true, Uno.
I think so too.
I love them. Okay, so again, I love this topic because there's 10 million different answers you could give. What a great way to ask this too, with mild, medium, and spicy. My mild prediction is that we are going to get a release date for Gears of War E-Day, finally. And I actually think it's going to be early this year. I got this feeling. I know Xbox is coming up soon on having a developer direct. I think a part of that developer direct is going to be Gears of War E-Day, and we are going to get a release date for that game from Xbox. That's my mild prediction. My medium prediction as well, speaking of game releases, is I think we are going to get a title announcement / reveal for part 3 of the Final Fantasy VII remake franchise. I think we're going to find out exactly what it's called. I'm still guessing that game is going to come out in 2027, but I think we're going to get a trailer with maybe even some cutscene footage, maybe even some gameplay. That's my medium take. We're going to get the reveal on FF7 Remake Part 3. And my spicy take, I believe wholeheartedly in my heart, Steam Machine is going to announce Half-Life 3 alongside it.
I think so too. It has to.
That's my spicy. It has to, dude. It has to. So thank you so much for the question. And second question, last but not least, from Ender. Ender, thank you for the question. Hey guys, like Chugs, I've always been a ride or die Bungie fan. Let's go. And despite there being a lot of skepticism around Marathon, I'm still cautiously optimistic for the launch in a few months. I think they made a smart move delaying the game to work on it because the game looks much better in their recent reveal. Absolutely. But since then, Arc Raiders has officially taken over as the #1 extraction shooter game. I have over 300 hours in the game and I still play it every night. Marathon looks like they took a lot of inspiration from Arc Raiders in terms of features and environments. But do you believe the game can coexist or can exist alongside Arc Raiders? Ooh, Ender, great question. My short answer to that question is absolutely. I think Marathon could definitely live alongside a game like Arc Raiders. Now, when you look at Marathon, Arc Raiders right now is just so molten hot. That game just took the world by storm. So like currently in the moment, it feels like it would be a really, really challenging time for it. But as time goes on and the anticipation for Marathon is building more and more. Also, Ender, like you mentioned, the love and appreciation so many people have for Bungie is just through the roof, me being one of them. So I absolutely think that Bungie and Marathon could definitely coexist alongside Arc Raiders, and it'll be really interesting to maybe see those two games competing against each other. I'll be very interested to see what happens.
On my side, I've only seen a little bit of Marathon. I did see the most recent trailer. I think they absolutely can have a foothold in the extraction shooter base, especially because while Arc Raiders is definitely the hot item now, Helldivers is still doing very well, and there are a few more extraction games that still have a dedicated amount of people. Now, will it take the #1 spot? I don't know, but if anything I could say is that extraction shooters typically have very short lifespans. Arc Raiders is doing incredibly well, but how much longer can that happen? I do not know. So maybe 4 months from now, which I believe is when Marathon does come out, that could all change. And I also think it all depends on how it's launched. If it's launched alongside Game Pass or alongside PlayStation Plus, and it starts with a big nest of day one users, I think it definitely could do very, very well. And that's kind of what I hope for it, is that it finds a means to, get within as many hands as possible, as quickly as possible, so that it has a chance to get a foothold and get, that hand to hand from one friend to another, and eventually build into a game that does stick around. Because it does have a lot of promise from that new recent trailer.
Definitely. And I completely agree, Uno. Those first couple weeks are going to be really important. Not saying that it couldn't succeed later, but like you said, I think those first few weeks is going to be huge for Bungie and for Marathon as a whole. But those were the two questions this week. Once again, thank you all very much for sending in the questions. It's me and Uno's favorite segment of the show. Before we wrap up today's marathon of an episode, we are going to get the answers for the producer quiz. I have not scrolled down yet. I'm about to scroll down now for this Kojima quiz.
In the meantime, let me remind you, at this moment, I believe Chugs is 11-6, maybe even 12-6. Did you go 12-6 last time?
I actually, Uno, I think it's 11-7. I think. I don't. Did you win? Or
no,
no. You're right.
You definitely won the last one. Yep.
Okay, then it is 12-6.
It is 12-6. That you've doubled my score.
I think you're right. Okay. Okay. So question 1: what was the very first game Hideo Kojima worked on at Konami? The correct answer, Uno, was B, Penguin Adventure. There you go. So that's one for you, Uno. The first game Kojima worked on was Penguin Adventure, an action platformer for the MSX that released in 1986, where his title was Assistant Director. The game was a sequel to the 1983 Antarctic Adventure. So you guessed that one, right?
I did not, unfortunately. I actually chose Chili Willy's Quest. I could have taken that point, but I'm an honest boy. Dude, I did not get that one.
This is the kind of man my co-host is.
That's
everybody.
right.
It was just so honorable with that. So, okay, so both of us were wrong. I guessed, right, of course, you guessed Chili Willy and I guessed Ice Climber. So Penguin Adventure was the correct answer. So we're both at 0 points. Question 2. Which two cult classic games did Kojima develop while at Konami to showcase his love for hard-boiled noir and sci-fi cinema? Well, we both got the first question wrong, but we got the second question right, both of us. The correct answer was A, Snatcher and Police Knots. A, released in 1988, Kojima directed, designed, and wrote Snatcher, arguably considered his first masterpiece before Metal Gear. Snatcher is a cyberpunk visual novel adventure heavily influenced by Blade Runner, Terminator, and Akira. And then in 1994, Kojima released Police Knots, which is a sci-fi noir visual novel adventure that Kojima also designed, directed, and wrote. Okay, so we got that one right. Mm-hmm. We got that one right. And question 3, last but not least, which of these games does Kojima not make a cameo in? I am so glad I went with my gut. The answer was B, Dance Dance Revolution Second Remix, which complete shot in the dark from both of us. A, in Cyberpunk 2077, Kojima makes a cameo as Dr. Hideyoshi Oshima. He's sitting at a hotel bar speaking Japanese and discussing brain dance art.
All right.
B, in Control, Kojima recorded voice lines for a side quest for the character Dr. Yoshimi Tokoi. So Kojima did voice lines for Control.
I had no idea.
And C, in Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, Kojima plays a recruitable staff member in Mother Base after you rescue him. So there is the Kojima quiz this week, which, again, huge thank you to our producers, because I'm right there with you. I love Kojima. But that's 13, baby.
That makes it 13-6 for the Chugs. Chugs, our trivia king, as always. Let us know how you did in our comments down below as well. Let us know what your game of the year for 2025 was. YouTube.com/AEW Games. Get in that comment section. Drop it down there. That is also, you can watch our podcast every single Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time in video format on YouTube.com/AEW Games. Also, wherever podcasts may be, if you follow or subscribe, you can listen to us every Monday at the wee hours of the morning. We're also on Twitch, twitch.tv/EvilUno, twitch.tv/The Chugs, and AEW Games itself, twitch.tv/AEW Games, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Mondays. MXM usually plays, sometimes with Ricochet, sometimes with all of us. They're playing video games every night. Also, finally, if you're subscribed to YouTube, you also get access to the Bronami Code. That's MXM's little show that comes out every single Thursday. This was by far our biggest episode of all time. I'm glad you listened to our Game of the Year discussion, but we will be back because every single Monday we will be discussing the very news and the very best video games that we've played, and it goes into 2026. So we will see you next Monday for another episode of All Elite Arcade. Have a good day, and bye-bye.